So welcome everyone. Tonight's session is all about what to say and how you say it. And I think that this is something we should have probably covered many months ago. And I like to kind of break it apart. Sometimes I talk about contracts, other times I talk about the market. Tonight, we're going to really just get down to the brass tacks about how to communicate with clients. And I've got some past training that I'll share with you. It's definitely more of an hour session, so I'm having to condense. Shannon and I had a brawl this right before today to make sure that I got all of the content that I wanted to say tonight into kind of PowerPoint slides, but she's going to have to just bear with me because there's a lot of content, but I really want to make this more of an kind of a working session so you can see how I think and how I operate when we are talking about emails and texts. So you'll get maybe some tips. Maybe you're not going to learn anything. I think you'll learn a few little things from today. Between Shannon and I, we do a lot of email and a lot of text. Kind of to kick it off while we got people jumping in right now. Somebody asked me, and this is just kind of an aside, this is not part of the content. Rochelle, how do you manage all of those agents and all of their emails and all of their texts on a daily basis? And it's quite the thing. Candace knows. She's covered for me even when I've been out of town or I've been away, and she's like, oh my gosh. So I think the best tip I have is to have a really good way of communicating with people, being responsive. And I have like a picture on my screen. It was somebody I was recruiting. They're like, how do you have your email box all cleared up? And so I make it a goal that I have like an ocean background. And my goal is, and I never actually get to the ocean, I'm pretty close on some days, but basically to get to the bottom of my email, Gmail has like different images you can put. And so I have like an ocean. So my goal is to just get my emails all done and cleared out and get to the ocean every day. So that's a tip that may work for some of you, but you really need to read, archive, respond, and get into a really good rhythm of doing that with your emails. Let's go to the next slide. So I don't really want to cover that. I really want to get into meat and potatoes of how to communicate by email. And so there's this class that I took several years ago, and it made an impact on me, and it really enhanced the way I communicate with sellers and with buyers. And the class went like this. This is, in fact, I had Shannon copy and paste it from the actual content from the handout. And that's why the left side looks a little bit faded, because it was really something I've kept with me, and I've had it at my desk to improve my emailing capabilities. Now, I don't want to sound like ChatGPT. If you guys saw what ChatGPT could spit out, it would sound very computer generated. This is all about creating more clients for you. Many of you have asked me, I want more clients. Well, you have to communicate. You have to negotiate. There's a lot you need to consider when you're actually communicating in the form of writing. So here are the top things, and we actually scored. I was in a class that went through, and they would actually, the people in the class would score your actual emails. We would partner up, and we would write in response to an email, and then we were graded by our peers on whether it had enough emotional value, whether it had enough financial value, whether it had something about humor, honor, or hope in it, what the content was about in your email, and whether it was specific and relevant, and whether you would respond to the agent, and was there a call to action. And if the higher your score, and it was like graded on a like 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star, the higher if you could get a 5-star, the more you could involve some of these types of things in your email. So emotional value, did it inspire you to actually connect with Rochelle on selling my home or buying a new one? So I usually have some sort of, and Shannon she's actually better at this than I am. You'll see some of her samples. She's really taken the emotional value and really connected the dots. The ChatGPT or some of the computer, they don't do well with emotional value. The computer has not been trained to connect in that type of way. In fact, a ChatGPT class I took recently, that was one thing the computer is still struggling to connect with. And even if you tell it to have more emotional connection, the computer definitely falls short in that category. Financial value, did your did it motivate you to actually have interest in buying or selling from a financial standpoint? Do we cover that? Or do we just kind of let that be the elephant in the room and not cover anything about financial? A lot of people make decisions based on whether it's financially good for them to move forward or not move forward. And so having that type of message in your email can also help push the ball forward faster. Humor, honor, hope. You have to know your audience and your personality. So I might go more with honor or hope, where Shannon might have more humor in her emails. Again, it depends on how your personality and how you relate with people. But if you can add a little bit of humor, honor, I like the 3 H's. Did it smile? Did it make you laugh? I use a lot of the little dots and then the little, swoopy thing on the right to make a happy face. That I used a lot. And that was also adding a little bit of humor through an image. But you may want to think about that. Does your tone, does your email or your email to a client, does it have either humor, honor, or hope in it? That might help you in getting the client to respond or move forward. Then the content. Did the message add value on any information you didn't already know? That's super important for me. And that's where ChatGPT could help. If you're struggling, maybe English is a second language for you, you may want to have ChatGPT write it so that your content is, informational, but then you're probably going to have to, ChatGPT, word on the street, they're too long, too winded. So you're probably going to take the content and slice it down and then maybe add some emotional, financial humor into it and make it more relevant to the situation. Once you get done writing the email, you're going to want to ask yourself, was the message relevant to the specific interest? Did it help move the ball? Is it relevant to the situation? So content and being relevant is kind of all in one. And then you want to ask yourself, when you get done typing whatever response you're going to write to the client, would you respond to yourself? Would you actually take that next step and actually reply? And was there a call to action? You don't know how many emails that I critique on a daily basis, or if somebody asking me to coach them on this, how they actually don't even have a call to action. Are they motivated to take the next step? Is there some sort of call to action? One of my favorite ones is that I see a lot is feel free to contact me. I was like, whoa, that's way passive. There is no call to action when somebody says at the very end of their email, feel free to contact me. It's like, okay, next, I'll go to the next email. So make sure that your call to action is very specific and very relevant. You'll get a lot of responses if you actually have a call to action. And that you might be lacking in emotional or financial value in your email, but you might get a 5-star because your call to action is so good and how you craft that. So let's go to some samples. Shannon, I think that's the next slide. Oh, actually, we're going to need to talk about formatting. This is good to talk about before we get into some samples. So kind of marinate on those tips, and we'll come back to that. But formatting of emails, there's all different emails you're going to receive in your inbox. I receive HTML, I receive plain text, and there is you're going to get more branding if you do HTML and you do it right. So you kind of want to mix. Now we're talking about email strategies in 2023. You kind of want to mix the HTML with the plain text. I found very good success by doing that. If you were to be an agent and you were getting into the business right now and all you did was HTML, you're most likely not going to get any responses. I've tested it. I've tried it. I know it for a fact. But if you incorporate some plain text as well as HTML, all of a sudden your responses are going to go up substantially, almost up to 100% more by using plain text in addition to HTML. But here's what you could happen if you don't consider your frequency. You're going to look like a lender. I don't mean to pick on anybody. So I got this same email, this weekly update from, I'm not joking, you guys, 7 different lenders. It's exactly the same. So what happens with sometimes marketing with HTML is if you're using the same vendor, same company, all of that is the same, then what happens is the consumer could be on your email list, but in addition, they could be on Shannon's email list, and they could essentially get the same email, which lacks personality. It lacks personal value, definitely emotional value. you lose points on that for those types of emails. But if it's done and done well, I would say monthly HTML would be appropriate in real estate. Lending, they may get away with it because they have something that's visually pleasing when it comes to the rate, or maybe it's something that's relevant. But be very careful that you're not losing people by sending out too much HTML on a weekly basis. I would say that that would be a miss when it comes to real estate. As far as monthly, I would highly encourage you to find a monthly email, a newsletter. I know that some of you on this call, in fact, have designed some beautiful monthly newsletters. It makes it very easy to do it from our system, but make sure that it's not overused, and also incorporate into your emails plain text as well. You also want to add some personality. So maybe you want to do a newsletter and you wanted to actually make it personal. I have tried that. Shannon has tried that as well. By putting a little personal message, incorporating that into your blast email, and all of a sudden, again, your increase of responses will go up. I was at a kids baseball and I'd sent out an email out to my neighborhood, and it was funny because I'd put a personal touch on there, you know, that my son Kyler is playing baseball and he loves it. I put that as kind of like the personal touch in my newsletter. It was actually embedded right into the email, not part of the HTML, but kind of like it was a blend of HTML with a little bit of a plain text, like it's 2 lines or 3 lines of plain text. And this particular individual that pulled me aside, she's like, "Thank you so much for sending me your, you know, your monthly newsletter." And she's never responded to the last 7 months of HTML, but because it looked like I put a personal message in there of plain text along with the HTML, all of a sudden she responded and actually came up to me and was having a conversation at the baseball game. So personal definitely is best. It's just, how can you do 1,000 personal emails? That's not obviously realistic. So again, it's trying to merge and kind of come up with the best strategy. And so hopefully that helps you guys in knowing what format to use. The other thing I'll use is caution. Some of you are using ChatGPT. Shannon, can you show on the screen if you are going to be, you know, maybe drafting emails in, say, another program like ChatGPT? I've already caught one lender do this to me. Essentially copied and pasted the ChatGPT into an email to me. So it had the formatting of the ChatGPT. I knew right off the bat. I was like, oh, dang. So I don't want you guys to make that mistake. So I'm going to show Shannon, have Shannon go ahead and go into your email box and just show them a few things on Gmail that might help them so they don't make that same mistake. Sorry, Shan. I told you have to be nimble with me here.
I know. Okay, so I suppose when you're copy and pasting something, especially from like ChatGPT or something like that, or maybe it's coming from a different thing. And I know I've seen things, and this is just like me super fussy sometimes, I suppose. But when you get like different fonts or different sizes in things, when you're in Gmail specifically, and this works also with Outlook, if you're an Outlook user, they typically will have like a remove formatting button here. If you use that, it will at least make everything look consistent. So that way it'll remove those extra formatted boxes that ChatGPT will give you, or if it was in a different font than what you typically use with your email. So it makes it look more personal.
See, that little button, Shannon, see, this is where it's nice to work with younger generation that uses these functions and it has a little bit more savviness. Shannon's definitely more savvy at email than I am. She saved me like 3 steps. I was going to Notepad, copying, pasting, and then making sure that I go Notepad. She's like saved me 5 steps, I think, by just knowing about that little icon on the bottom there. So that was pretty cool. Thank you for sharing, Shannon. Let's go to the next slide. So let's try it now that you've had time to kind of marinate on what we're talking about tonight. We've got a sample here on the screen. And again, I'm gonna have Shannon, we're gonna do sample 1 together, Shannon. So kind of show everybody how we use emotional value, financial value. We're going to actually do it together. And then I think what works best is if you practice this and you do it as like an assignment after our call tonight, and either send Shannon an email or me an email, and on your subject line, just put sample That way we know it's a practice one, and we will give you a 5-star, a 4-star, a 3-star, or a 2-star with some feedback on why. I think you'll learn a lot more by actually practicing. So there's one thing to be listening into a webinar and to actually, listen to, maybe some of you play this back even after we do it on a Monday night. But I think it really resonates, and you get a lot better at communicating when you actually practice and it's not a real client. So you can use sample 2 or sample 3 or sample 1 if you want to practice those, bullet points there on the right. So if you could just let people snap a picture real quick, Shannon, there we go. If you want to test this, or if you want to just pause your screen if you're listening to the recording after, and then practice actually responding to one of these samples. And by using some of these emotional value, financial value, humor, honor, hope content, making it relevant and making sure there's a call to action, you'll see that you'll become a better communicator by email, and you'll connect with much more clients. And some of you, every client counts. When there's less clients out there, you've got to be better at, once you've got somebody like this where they're on the hook, where they say, I want a 2-bedroom, 2-bath townhome. I'm not yet pre-approved for a loan, but have talked with a couple of lenders, none of which I was impressed with. Once I find the right home I'm ready to buy, oh my gosh, you want to take that ball and run with that. And so we're going to give you kind of some parameters to work with. And I'm going to have Shannon, let's use sample number 1. And at this point, Nancy is probably salivating. She's like, please let me work with that client, especially when they're not impressed with any of the lenders. But we definitely want to go through how to respond to this client. So her name is Heidi. So let's go ahead and just go to your email box, Shannon, and we'll just kind of 2-bedroom, 2-bath home. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and create. Her name is Heidi. So you always want to start with a salutation. Some of you, have a style, and that's where your style could come out, like hi Heidi, or hello Heidi, or I know Eric Noyes, he does greetings Heidi. Whatever your salutation is, Shannon's style is just strictly Heidi. So that will work, but you definitely want to address them by name. And subject line is very important. You use something that is relevant, but as we get into it, we're going to go right to emotional value. So how would we start, Shannon?
So for this here, I'm going to see if I can just copy and paste it. Rochelle's making me go really fluid. So I want a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house or townhouse. I'm not yet pre-approved for a loan, but I've talked with a couple lenders, none of which I'm impressed with. Once I find the right home, I am ready to buy. So for me, I probably would see if I could ask some more questions, certainly to figure out where 2-bedroom, 2-bath would be important to know. And then also, if this is someone I would know, I would try and incorporate something as well. Like, it's nice to see you on Sunday. I'm so glad we were able to connect, or, it's nice to see you in my email. You're never there. I mean, basically find something in common, gather from what you know about this individual to incorporate somehow.
Okay, so let's go into it. We're going to work on it. I am not pre-approved for a home yet. Okay, so we're looking at townhomes. So we're going to go ahead, Heidi. We're going to say, thank you so much for your response. Again, we want to connect. So that would be how for reaching out. I certainly understand how you feel about lenders these days. Okay. Okay, you want to keep going on that little thought, Shannon? Emotional value. We're going to kind of tackle the emotional value and the financial value.
So I certainly understand how you feel about lenders these days. I actually, I don't know. I mean, you could basically monkey around this based on the circumstance, but it's like, insert something personal. I just refied on my house and it was rough.
Type it up. You're good. You've been trained on how to do this.
I know.
Go ahead, type it up. And again, this makes it personal. And again, it makes you sound like a real human being.
Some options.
Okay.
Um,
That would be hope right there. I'm happy to look at some options that could work for you and your family. When do you have some time to? That's good.
Actually, no, I would just say, do you have some time on Thursday? Or Friday?
Okay, perfect. That's pretty direct. So that's good. We'll kind of, that would be definitely specific. When you're figuring out times to meet, don't give people too many times. You want no more than 2 times, so Thursday or Friday. Shannon's been taught obviously to do that, and that is a good thing to do. You have some time on sit down and discuss. Okay, so that'd be a call to action. Can we add some more to make the emotional value? Thank you for reaching out. Certainly understand how you feel about lenders these days. I recently found it was tough working with. We need to get some more hope. And just say, it's much easier when you find a lender that is aligned. Yep, that's great. Okay, perfect.
I don't know, whatever, basically.
And then I would say we definitely want to have the call to action. Would you have some time? So she's definitely, are you trying to stay? You want a couple questions, so you could bullet point some questions. Thank you so much for reaching out. I certainly understand how you feel about lenders these days. I recently refinanced my house, and it was tough working on blank, but it's much easier when you find a lender that's aligned with your vision. Are you trying to stay in the Maplewood area, or are you open to other townhome communities? Okay, so then pop that one at the beginning. And you could just say, I just have a few questions for you so that we can. I recently learned just as kind of not a good word. You can get rid. I have a few questions for you. There we go. Get rid of just. That would be more specific. Okay. Overall score, emotional. Okay, so we covered emotional value. We've got financial value. I have to look at so much that work for you and your family. You have some time on Thursday. And let's see, we need to kind of connect the dots a little bit more with the financial part, Shan. How would we add some more about the financial? Because she's obviously not happy with a few different options. Okay, there you go. I like that. And one thing that you could be you might do is to provide that lender's contact information, but that's a mistake. You really want to get an appointment or have some more conversation about their situation before you connect the lender. Because they've already talked with a couple of lenders, none of which they were impressed with. Shannon needs to understand what were they not impressed with? Was it the interest rate? What was important to them? I like the question you have is what, go back to your email, was what are you looking for in a lender partner? Yes, that's a great question. Okay. And once I find the right home, I'm ready to buy. So you're basically answering that question of, are you willing to look at, at Maplewood or a different area? So I think that's good. Okay, super. So that's kind of, Shannon would probably get, there's always room for improvement, but since we're in a training situation, again, you just need to practice adding some emotional value, financial value, humor, honor, and hope. Here's an example of a buyer agency sample that I use, Shannon's used, we've templated this. Don't forget to attach the disclosures. But after you are meeting with a client and maybe you have not, received the buyer agency agreement signed, this also builds more trust. You can see the content is very relevant. It's very specific. It's after previewing homes for you the weekend. I'm very jealous of your upcoming move over here. It feels like home out here, even for me, happy face. Again, that's a little bit more of that hope, a little bit of humor. I'm also very excited to roll up my sleeves and get to work and find you the home in the valley. Below are some helpful links to help you get oriented with the area. Again, very relevant, very specific. So Shannon would get high marks on this email. As promised, attached is the buying guide I mentioned that can be as a resource for you. You guys, if you want to snap this, be my guest. This is a very, very helpful email that we use a lot. We kind of taken variations of this. As promised, attaches the buying guide. Again, we could attach the buyer consultation, thing that we've maybe went over in person with somebody. And then also I've attached disclosures I'm required by state law to provide you. You'll receive an AuthentiSign link that I will need signed by you in order to present further opportunities. Let me know when you are planning a trip over to Spokane and we can meet up over there. I'll let you know how it goes with the Liberty Lake House this afternoon. Again, there's the one thing that's missing from this is the call to action. So the call to action might be better positioned. If I was to critique Shannon on this one, I would tell her to probably take, I'm required to send you by law. You'll receive an AuthentiSign link. It's buried in the body of the email. I would probably take that. You will receive an AuthentiSign link that I will need signed by you in order to present further opportunities. Please let me know if you have any questions. I would probably put that at the end. The call to action tends to go at the end because people like me who get a lot of emails start and then they have the body that's content or relevant, and then you end with the call to action. So that would be the way to improve that email, but still gets very good high remarks and definitely helps move the ball forward. This one is another good one. Buyer agency sample follow-up. It was great to speak with you today regarding your dream for the music venue. This even works for commercial. Shannon actually had a buyer agency signed, and probably because she had a lot of relevancy and then also had done a lot of specific search typically, and she explained typically how she runs the agreements and how, once the agreement is signed, we can set up a time to discuss. We can meet in Tukwila or Zoom, whichever is easiest for you. And then there's an assumptive close, looking forward to working with you. And that client, based on her email, signed the agreement and they have an agency agreement that they're working on right now. Let's go to the next one. This is a follow-up email that it's tried and true. It's one I use almost for every listing that I do. I don't leave the sellers the CMA, but if I didn't get the listing agreement signed, which there's all kinds of reasons why the sellers were not ready to sign the agreement, this is the email that I use. It's a follow-up email to secure either a listing appointment or to get the listing agreement signed. So thanks for allowing me to virtually tour your property and your home today. After researching the listing, when you bought it, I saw how much work. Again, that honor, that's honor coming out here. After researching the listing you bought, I see how much work, how honorable you were. That's kind of an example of honor. As you can see, there are some recent pending comparables in Edgewood with similar updates. I had to go up. Again, this paragraph is all about relevancy and making it very specific to the client. You are welcome to check a couple of my personal recent listings so you can see how I market them or speak with these clients. I gave references, again, very specific, very much about the financial value where they can actually connect with other happy clients, and then attaches the analysis and the listing proposal to give you more of the background of what I would do to sell your home. As the owner of Best Choice Realty, I have the experience, the local knowledge, and the time to assist you with this listing. That one you can take out as the owner of Best Choice Realty, you could say, I have the experience, the local knowledge, and the time to assist you with your upcoming project or your listing. Please look everything over and let me know when you are ready to discuss the next steps. That right there is your call to action. If I was to highlight that last sentence or two, you could essentially take this email and copy and paste it into your own business, and it would be a home run. You will get a lot more listings and a lot more sellers moving the ball forward with you. Let's go to the next slide. I think I'm almost done. So I had a few little bloopers. Some of you like to see the good, bad, and the ugly. So I threw these in for some fun things we could look at. But this would be a bad example. Hi, Rochelle. The offer we wrote expired because one of the sellers did not respond and the listing agent could not reach her. I took the opportunity to write another offer and it was just accepted. Thanks for all your help. So this is one of our agents who basically learned how responsiveness becomes very important with emails and how you communicate. This was the text message. What did you and your clients think of our Rambler listing in the Buttes? They really liked it. Again, you could miss out on opportunities because you're texting rather than emailing and communicating by phone. So please don't make that mistake of not being responsive. Even if it's just an email saying, hey, I'll call you in 5 minutes, or you respond by email and say, give me a couple days to get back to you. Being responsive sometimes is what some of you need to spend some time working on. It's not so much the content or what you say, it's how you respond, your responsiveness, or how you respond, in what format. This is some good examples. So these are some good, were these text messages, Shannon, or emails? I think
these, I mean, these are text messages that I have used in the last 12 months, and each one of these has gotten a listing. So if you're looking at, what can I do? Someone I'm running into at church, someone I'm running into at the grocery store that I know, or someone my kids in sports with, whatever it is that you're running into people that and you're chit-chatting, and that they're potentially going to list. Maybe it's your neighbor that's kind of like, they're putting fresh mulch down, it's coming, and it's like, let's at least be a little bit more upfront. I know it's kind of scary sometimes, but just sending a simple message like this, or an email or a text message to this effect, is very impactful. It's like, when do you have time on Wednesday to sit down and talk about listing your house? I got some time this weekend if you want to get a game plan together to list your house. I'm sure I can help lighten the load. That was when I actually ended up going on I was up against another agent and I got it. So, hi, so-and-so, it's nice to catch up with you at, this place today. Do you and your husband have about an hour tonight or tomorrow to go over your options for housing together? This is someone I ran into, that they live in an apartment, and they're like, I don't know if it's a good time to buy. I don't know if it's a good time to sell. I mean, they basically are asking for an appointment, and you just have to be the one to be upfront and just basically get them to close and commit to a time to talk about it.
The key thing I'm taking from your texts and your emails here, Shannon, is proactive. That's the word here. Do not react right now in this marketplace. You've got to be the one that engages. You have a license, you know what to do. You've got a great brokerage, a great support network, a team of people that are behind you to support you. You just have to trust that you have what you need. So take one of these that Shannon's got here. It's definitely, I've even had some of the people that have taken this class from us in the past. We've done this class, this actual slide, I think 2 years ago, right? 3 years ago, we shared something similar, and they actually took it and put it into an email, and they did what they called a one-liner email. And I said, take the test and just, instead of doing text, maybe put this into an email and get that out to those 5 or 6 people that are kind of on the fence. And that, sure enough, that agent came back to me and was like, oh my gosh, Rochelle, it worked. Well, again, it's being proactive. It's not waiting for the phone to ring. It's taking the initiative and letting people know, do you have some time? I'd love to go over the marketplace. Sounds like, it sounds like the market's very scary, but when you actually spend some time with me, like I think your last one talks about, the inventory is moving fast. It is. That's not a lie, even in the marketplace right now. So having all your ducks squared away is very important when you have time to meet, to go over the real estate matters. One of my favorite ones that Candace uses all the time is, I want to be a real estate resource for you. So I may not want to help you buy or sell, but I want to be available to you whenever you have something happen with your house, whether it be, you need to have a deck that needs to, or a landscaper. Heaven forbid it's a landscaper. We don't want landscapers right now. We're definitely hurting for landscapers that are good. But anything that's related to the house, I need a cleaner, I need that type of work, or who do you know? That you want to be the first person that they reach out to, because at some point when they're putting the mulch, Shannon, like, they're going to be listing their house, and you want to be the one that has the sign right in front of their house. Let's go to I think, is there one more slide? I think that was a wrap.
I think we just had a follow up. Yeah.
And this is just a reminder. Don't think texting is where it's at. I know a lot of you fall on text, but after you have a phone call or after you have a good meeting, yeah, it's important to text and let people know that thank you so much. So use text more as a way to continue to build a relationship. It should not be your only form of communication. Some of you are getting almost to the point where you're crossing lines where texting is still not legal communication. When it comes to negotiation for offers and those types of things, you're going to want to actually put some of the conversations that you're having in text and put that in an email. Just because then it becomes legal and binding, especially when it comes to buyer agency or listing or things of that nature that are very much more legal sensitive, you're going to want to take it off of text and put it right into an email. Use
Right.
texting as more of a friendly communication, build a relationship kind of thing.
Right. And this scenario that we've got on the screen was an example of like, hi, Cheryl, look forward to meeting with you. Clearly, I've already spoken to this particular woman. We set up a time to meet them at their house for a listing appointment. You can see we had the listing appointment, so we met them in person. So I've called, we've now texted, I've met them in person, and I sent a follow-up text message. And what you don't see here as well is there's also email communication now as well. So I mean, you're getting them all in one go, but the follow-up is very important. Follow-up.
Yep.
And quick follow-up too. It's not like I'm waiting a week to respond. This is basically within an hour or two after I've met with these people.
Very good. So that is the good. We want to responsive. Bad would be don't hide behind the text, pick up the phone. Someone didn't respond to our offer for the property. I don't know if this is you, but I've got 4 phone calls this weekend alone with people. They didn't answer their phone. I was trying to submit an offer. Can I call the seller directly? Can I submit the offer directly? You've got to properly communicate with that listing agent. You cannot go around the listing agent and you talk to the seller directly unless it's it's listed that way. It's an exclusive listing agreement and you can get fined if you go directly to the seller. So something like this, there should be an email and there should be a CC that the designated broker or managing broker is aware of the offer. And I got news from one of the agents, he actually got an acceptance, so that was good, but it's getting very, very hostile at times out there. And what I don't want to have happen is there's a lot of text messages about the lack of professionalism all of us at Best Choice Realty have. I don't want to be on the other side of that. We need to be on the good side. So always do a consultation. Sometimes you'll have to do more than one consultation. Sometimes, like I showed you on the screen with my, listing appointment, you'll have to essentially do the listing appointment and then follow up with an email that's very much touches on all of the things we covered already about emotional value, financial value, add a little humor, honor, or hope. Definitely talk about the content, make sure it's relevant, and then also try to get a follow-up or a call to action. Get that agency agreement signed. There's a lot of you who are starting to have conflict with other people out there, other agents that are essentially going after the same client. So make sure that you're getting the agency agreement signed as soon as possible. After January 1st, it will be required for a buyer agency agreement to be signed. So start practicing that now. If you didn't watch last Monday's session, that's news to you, but January 1st of next year, 2024, buyer agency agreement must be signed. It will be a mandatory requirement. It's better to over communicate than not enough when it comes to building relationships. Voicemails are cleared and emails and texts are responded to on a daily basis. And when in doubt, if you're confused or you're negotiating something, just pick up the phone. Don't rely on text. I think too many of you are hiding behind text and we need to be ahead of it and be proactive. So those are the key takeaways. I learned a few little things from Shannon as we were preparing this tonight. Hopefully you took a few tips. And again, if you want to just go back, Shannon, to the samples, take a picture of the samples real quick. And if you want to practice the humor, honor, hope, that slide that we have there, you can just put that on the screen there. Go ahead and try sample number 2 tonight, or maybe it's sometime this week, or sample number 3, and creating an email response and seeing if you can get better at providing more value. And you'll see how much better your client retention will be. And if there's less clients, you can only get better at email and communication to improve your business. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you for jumping on. Thank you, Melissa, for the feedback. I appreciate it. But certainly if you want to, try it out, go ahead and send me an email or Shannon an email. We'll be sure to get you back 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, or 2-star based on how well you did on the exercise tonight. Thank you, Jenny. Candace, hopefully we covered what we needed to today. I know.
Yes, I just wanted to add that this Wednesday, you all have been sent an invitation, but this Wednesday, and if you did not, please let me know. You are invited to our office in Tukwila or on Zoom, and the Zoom link, it's my Zoom, and we'll have Tycor Title bringing information about assumptions, wraparounds, as well as owner financing. And I know I've gotten a lot of questions from some of you around this. So let's get educated so we can close more deals. That is from 10 to 11:30 this Wednesday. So you can come into Tukwila in person. We'll have it hybrid, and it'll also be available on Zoom. And message me if you do not have the invitation link, and I will make sure that I get you on the invite.
Yeah, and that's a great class. If you've got potential VA buyers that you've got, assumable mortgages might be a way to go so they can avoid a 6 or 7% rate. And same thing with if you've got an FHA buyer potentially, or someone who owns a house that has an FHA loan. I mean, this is something we really need to be briefed on.
Yeah, owner financing options, some of these owners have tons of equity, they can carry back and do just getting creative and making matches with our buyers and sellers. That's going to be something we want to be familiar with here.
And then, I mean, to take it back to the emails, you'll probably get a better score, I would think, right, Candace? If you can talk about financial instead of the elephant in the room, don't talk about financial in your email response. Something like example 1, where she's not pre-approved for a loan, you might have more to say to her, right, after taking the class.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's awesome. I'm glad we got that on the schedule. I was happy to see that come across. Thank you for reminding me too and jumping in.
Yes, no problem.
Awesome. And we will go ahead and record this one. So have a great week, you guys, and hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday.